Every last drop.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another Anglers Happy Hour podcast. I can't believe it's been exactly 2 weeks since our last episode. It's amazing. That just seemed to fly by, but obviously I'm a little bit off there, so appreciate you guys hanging in and tuning in today. We've got a Thanksgiving morning episode for you. We're up early. It's Thanksgiving Thursday, and things are beautiful here in Arizona. Be curious to see what you guys have planned for your day, but want to say happy Thanksgiving to all the listeners. And yeah, let's start with you guys. We're going to go in order here for what I see on my screen. So, Rob, what's up with you lately, and what are you doing today, man?
Uh, Today we're getting together with all the families. We're all going to my in-laws, my parents, and family members that live here also. So we all meet up, which is pretty cool. So
Nice.
we're not bouncing around. We just go to one place and should be good. So yeah, it's beautiful weather here finally. We always talk about weather, but I guess that's because I'm over 50, but it's
I'm
what
all
old
into
people
the
do.
weather too, man. I'm 35 and I'm obsessed with the
Oh,
weather.
you're so screwed when you get old. That's all you'll talk about.
That's
Yeah,
hilarious.
it's I'm like sadly, and I'm kind of in the mode of where I was on the podcast in what late 2020 all the way through 21, where I was remodeling the house. I'm on the second phase now where I'm doing a laundry room addition and building a uh, boat garage. Um, I don't know, like workshop, man cave, whatever you want to call it. So I'm pretty stoked about that. But
Well, that'll be cool.
yeah,
Yeah, I can't wait to see the finished product there. And that thing is it's gonna be sweet, right?
yeah, it's just it's going to allow us to stay in this house. I mean, we um, not that we wouldn't otherwise, but it makes it a lot easier backing the boat in. Just yeah, it's we're going to be able to we're gaining so much storage. It's going to be unbelievable. So I'm
That's
pretty
nice.
stoked about that.
Yeah, so like as of right now, to get your boat in the garage, you've got to do kind of a crazy hairpin turn as you're backing it into your
Yeah,
driveway and get it into your garage at a specific angle, right?
yeah, and I like excuse me, when we purchased this house, I like literally stressed out about it. I was looking at one of those little motorized backing up machines that you use for a trailer
Yeah.
in a really tight spot. And the first time I backed it in, I got it with the truck and I was like, holy cow. But some days I'll get it in one shot. Some days it takes me, multiple little turns, but I've gotten pretty good at it. The problem is with a tandem axle trailer, you literally destroy tires. Like it's just
Mm.
grinding on my driveway. And on the one side, the tires will literally be wore out. I think however it works, the back one would be wore out on the inside and the front one or vice versa, but can't be good for my axles at
Do you
all.
hear the trailer just popping as you turn it?
Popping, clicking, like yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
not pretty at all. So I think that'll definitely make my trailer last a little longer. So
Yeah, that's cool. You're already on trailer number two on this boat. So
number
let's
three,
number
trailer number
three.
three. Yes, yes. First one was, I'm sure if we have listeners that are purchased a boat in what mid 2000s, like probably 6 to 10, somewhere in there with the tube channel, not the C channel trailer, made with like, I don't know, it, it was like the thickness of a pop can. And my first trailer was like the really sweet one with the fiberglass fenders and all that stuff. And I started noticing rust and it literally fell apart. And I cut it into 4 foot chunks with a sawzall in my garage when I was done with it. That's how it was, a pile of rust. That was all that was
That
left.
thing was carrying around a multi-thousand-pound boat. Yeah,
Yeah, which is absolutely frightening, right? Like,
yeah.
golly.
That's
So,
how quagga mussels got everywhere.
right. Right.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks.
And there
But
he
I
is.
attribute it to being a guide and I was fishing every day. So the trailer never got a chance to dry out. That's why I made sure that the trailer I have now is a C channel and it I'm sure it'll have a little rust, surface rust, but it'll never rust through, which is great. So
That's cool. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, yeah, that's sweet. Yeah, we all can't wait to see that. And then your target is when for, I mean, obviously there's a lot that depends on, but when do you hope to have that shop done by?
well, with our HOA, you got to put up money and then promise them you get it done in a certain amount of time. So
Nice.
I've got till the end of March and for me to get my money back. So
Oh,
I'm hoping it's done way before that because I want to get it, be guiding hardcore by hopefully February, March. So we'll
Nice.
see.
Right. Hey, right in time for the lakes to come up like 30 feet and get ice cold and muddy, dude. And then
Terrible, huh?
it'll be
prime
good in
time.
April.
I'm
Yeah.
already looking forward to spring. Like I'm beyond the good fishing really for the most part. But
That's
other
funny.
than you've
Dude,
had some great
you
days.
and the rest of the hunters can stay off the water, and Nick and
Yeah.
I will enjoy it. That's
And
cool,
we've been
man. You stay off the water.
that's one thing we have been doing is hunting a lot this fall. So
Yeah,
Boyd ended up shooting a nice buck what a week or so ago. He tried to kill us when we went to go get him. We dropped over 1,000 feet in elevation to recover that deer. It was pretty gnarly. So
that's crazy. Yeah,
yeah,
it sounds like the pack outs. You guys seem to have the most interesting pack outs, but that's why you get good animals because you're not afraid to do that, right?
yeah, they're the poor man's sheep hunt. So like if you can imagine like recovering a sheep in Alaska or a desert sheep down here in some of the gnarliest country, that's what these coos deer are in. And yeah, it's pretty crazy. So
Nice, nice. Um, well, that's cool. I
well,
saw a
not
couple of them on the road going into Roosevelt the other day.
did you?
Yeah,
What were they? Mule deer?
I don't know, dude. They're deer.
Deer. They're deer. That's awesome.
That's cool. Well, dude, I'm glad the hunt was good. Nick, what's going on your way, dude?
well, I've been quiet listening to Rob as I've been hammering out an Evite for all of our listeners. The Anglers Happy Hour get together version 2 will be at Rob's Detached Garage
Nice.
on February 25th.
Yes.
We'll have barbecue and a tap truck will show up with 4 different beers on tap. So
February
we'll
25th, we might have paint rollers and that type of stuff instead of everything else. So
Well, didn't
just
you say
saying,
that your deposit goes non-refundable if you don't have it finished by the end of March or the beginning of March?
end of March.
Okay, March 25th, guys. Sorry
Yeah.
about that. Well, actually, they could show up and help you roll paint. So
That's
maybe we
my
should keep
point.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if it's
That-
anything like the folks that came to the first one, I mean, that'd be like a bang up crew of like helpful, wonderful
Yes.
humans, dude. They'd be
Yeah.
done in no time.
They did more work than us at the first one. Dude, I had some guys ask me, some pretty cool dudes asked me the other day, when was the next one? And I was like, oh yeah, dude, I don't think we're gonna be able to pull it off this year. We can barely even pull off a podcast. But I've got high aspirations for next year. And then I was thinking back and it's like, dang, it's already been 2 years since we did that. So
That's insane how long ago
yeah.
that was.
Yeah, it feels like just
It
yesterday.
reminds me every time I punch in my password, we have 2019 in there because that's when we started. So
Yeah,
that's insane, huh? Like that's a long time ago. So,
that's the truth. Hey,
and
what's
we've
the rest of our
accomplished like
password?
4
Yeah.
podcasts in 2023. So
Yep, that's cool. Well, hey, good
Le-
thing is we've got a new year coming up and we can set some higher goals, right?
yeah.
And like anyone who understands the content game like we do, we realize that it's quality, not yeah, you know what I mean? Not quantity. So you just got to do like one every 6 months that's below average, and the algorithms love that. It just
Oh
puts you
yeah.
right at the top.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just as that heartbeat's about to stop, you just give it a little jolt, man. And well, that's cool. Nick, you were actually on the water yesterday, dude. And I shouldn't say actually, you've been out a fair amount lately, and different types of fishing too. He's been up north. He's been camping. Now he's moved into bass mode. I don't know if the bass have realized that yet, but what's up your way, dude?
Oh man, why you gotta fishing shame me, bro? It's been so long since I've caught a fish on my own boat that actually, you know what? I think it was the last time we regularly did podcasts in 2019 was the last time I caught a fish on my boat. So I'm living vicariously through that. But Yeah, man, I actually have been fishing a little bit, and it's been nice. It's hard not to go when the weather's been as nice. We finally have made it to the beautiful time, and I was chuckling when you're saying, Rob, that we don't have anything to look forward to as we age and just focus on the weather. I actually live with a professional armchair meteorologist with my dad, and I'll go in there and hang out with him, and he hates the Weather Channel, but up until recently, that was his only option. And so he had to put up with the aspects of it that he doesn't like. And I'd come in and see him, and he could give me like a 7 minute spiel on like a tropical depression out in the lower, Indo-Pacific region that has affected the bars of atmosphere pressure 17% over the Pacific Northwest, and left feeling like, okay, good to know. So
Yeah,
That's
in
why the fish
Arizona,
aren't
you don't have to
biting.
worry about anything, dude. Really. That's classic.
so I think I see the writing on the wall of what lies ahead for my future. But yeah, I tried. I had a quest. I got to go camping a couple times in October and was really hoping I could catch something that was remarkable. I really like that part of Sholo, well, outside of Sholo, Big Lake specifically. And a few times I saw it get really fishy, and it never lined up for me. But I also had my little aluminum boat full of kids that had gotten to the bottom of the bag of potato chips and had each other in headlocks right around that time. Trout fishing is something I don't know a whole lot about, but it's funny. You can see like the late afternoons where like it would start to get pretty good, and
Hmm.
we'd run out of enthusiasm right around the time that things were looking up. So I'm going to use them as my excuse for not catching trout. And then I'm going to use Josh as my excuse for not catching bass, because even though he regularly feeds me texts with where the stuff is going on, I think I'm just at the point now where I need like GPS locations. And if that doesn't work, I'm just going to come take your boat, bro. Something's got to break.
It's just a tough time of year. I mean, I'm gonna go dive into it a little bit here, but it's so timing oriented this time of year. And it's interesting that you even talk about the trout being like that a little bit. But right now, the difference between having an epic day and a really slow day is not much at all. It's literally you pop into an area at the right time and you don't even know it's coming, and you knock their lights out, or you don't, and you're at the dock saying, man, that was brutal. So it's a tricky time of year. I
What
really
do you
like it.
attribute that to? I mean, what would be the main reason?
We've always got excuses, right? And we're not into the middle of the winter bite yet, but we're kind of moving out of the fall bite. We're kind of like right in between. The water, here in Arizona has been like 62 to 64 degrees for like weeks now. It's really kind of held steady. And I think I'd say the biggest thing is the fish are getting really schooled up and they're moving a lot. And if you can get into one of those schools when they're biting, you have a great time. But the fact that they are moving a lot and they are schooled up means your odds of running into random fish as the day goes on are a lot lower. Like you take the spring and even parts of the fall when the fish are just say up shallow and they're everywhere, you can just drop your trolling motor to go down the bank and catch fish. Whereas, like, you get into this season and they're so grouped up, you drop the trolling motor and go and go and go and nothing, 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 nothing. And then you fish 10 pockets that look the same in the 11th pocket, it is going down, or whatever type of spot it is. So I think that's a big thing. A lot of them are moving deeper too. Like, you have your X amount of fish that stay shallow all winter, no matter where you're at in the country, no matter where you're fishing. But I would say a huge percentage, I throw these percentages out, even though I have no real idea of what they are, but 75% of the fish right now are wanting to move out deep and be offshore. So if you're fishing shallow, you're fishing for just less fish.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've been out a fair amount lately, and we've had days where we catch as few as a few. And then my last fishing trip was awesome. I was out the other day, and we had like a decent day, caught some nice ones on jerk baits, and a few on spoons. And then between like 2 and 3:30, we caught fish on every drop. nice ones on the spoon. Just, the first truly like awesome day of the deep spoon bite that we've had this winter. So hopefully that's getting ready to fire. Hopefully we didn't just get lucky and land on the one right spot, but I think that's going to continue to be good for at least a few more weeks.
Are you finding those fish idling on the big motor, or are you having to get into areas and live scope them with the trolling motor? Or what are you doing?
I usually, and I will, like when it gets going, I idle a lot, and I did a lot that day, and I didn't really run into anything. That spot, it's funny, we had been catching a few there, not a ton. We had been catching a few that were, chasing bait down deep. So we just roll up and drop the trolling motor. And I noticed on live scope, there were like a few fish that were really close to the bottom. They almost looked like rocks, but you could tell they were fish. And it looked like literally like probably 4 or 5 fish. So we get over them and you catch one, and about 100 more come shooting off the bottom, trying to get the bait out of that fish's mouth as you're reeling it in. And we sat there and just caught fish after fish. And that died down a little bit. We went 100 yards down the way, saw another group of like 4 or 5 on the bottom, dropped down, and it ended up being another 100 plus fish sitting there, and just caught them until we were supposed to go home at 3, and we left them biting at 3:30.
I think this people, that's a lesson learned, right? I think a lot of people in this electronics day and age where they just have to see the fish before they catch them in a lot of situations. Obviously, you saw a handful down there, but you didn't see the mega schools. It's just a good tip that people need to feed off of, because I mean, how often does that happen where you just have history in an area, you roll up, you don't see anything, and then you catch one and they just come out of nowhere? I mean, are they so tight to the bottom you're not seeing them? Are they in the trees? Are they, who knows? But once you get a bite and get them to fire, that's when you really see what's there.
Yeah, that's the truth. I mean, there's a lot to be said for that. There's times when you do have to just fish, whether that's, sometimes those fish are, you see it a lot in the offshore fishing situations where the fish are offshore, but they're not deep. Say like an offshore flat, and you see this a lot in like Texas, Oklahoma. You're 200, 300 yards off the bank, but you're on a flat, and it's like 7, 8, 9 feet of water. It's really hard to idle. You can't idle over those fish. So you could try to side scan them, but a lot of times you just have to fish to find them, right? And you drop the trolling motor and you fish. And that still is a thing for sure. We talked about the jerkbait fish we were catching. You would shine your live scope at the bank, and the fish were so tight to the bottom or so into the thick trees that you wouldn't see anything. And then you throw your jerkbait out there, and they would just rise up out of nowhere. And then all of a sudden there's 5 fish on your bait, but you didn't see them until you cast. So you're still using it, to know, okay, my bait's in front of a fish or not, or they're not eating it, or they are eating it. I'm doing the right thing with my bait, but you didn't see those fish until you cast.
That's funny. What I took from that was, I don't think I've heard anyone say shine their live scope. It's hilarious. I use
that all the time. It's like shining a light, dude.
It is. It's a flashlight, and it expands as it gets further out, right?
Yep. It's a flashlight.
Yep. That's hilarious. I like it. So did we just get off on a weird tangent there? And
we actually talked about fishing. Crap.
Yeah, that's crazy. We actually
let me have a turn talking. I got this.
We finish what Nick's up to, and we need to get on to what Josh is up to.
Yeah, well, that's it, dude. I mean, that's really been it. A lot of that, obviously, and part of the reason we didn't podcast last month was I was just too eaten up with all the craziness going on in the tournament fishing world right now. Things are starting to settle down a little bit, but and we stay out of the drama here. There's way too much negativity. And I don't want to be like, you guys ever see the episode of The Office where Andy and Aaron are starting dating and they're keeping it a secret? They're like, we don't want to talk about the drama. There's too much. We don't want to let everyone know that we're in a relationship because of the drama going on. And they just kept talking about drama. No one else even knew what was going on. But we are going to stay out of the drama and focus on the lighter side of fishing, because that's what we do and that's what fishing's all about. So just dealt with some of that stuff. And then my new boat's coming in. I got another Nitro Z21 that just got to Bass Pro here, and it's 90% rigged.
Oh,
It's going to hook up with our buddy Blaine and add a few things. We're going to put a sea clear harness in it, add one more graph, just do some different stuff. I'm finally like, and this is terrible. You'd think that having 4 graphs on a boat is enough, and it is. I can catch plenty of fish on a daily basis with 4 graphs. I could do it with 2, but to compete with those dudes that I'm fishing against back east, you need every little thing that you can get. So I'm adding a 5th graph to my boat, another unit up front.
does your Marshall hold that one?
Yeah, dude. Yeah, he's got.
Points it at you.
I need an extra set of eyes so I can see all of them at once, dude. But I'm gonna have another extra live scope with perspective mode going at all times, and that's really going to be helpful on some of those shallow flat lakes like Santee Cooper, where that perspective mode is like an aerial bird's eye view looking down, and you could be sitting on a spot, and it's going to really help point out stumps, hard spots, stuff like that. And I run a perspective transducer mount on my boat now, so I could switch from forward to perspective back and forth. But again, everyone
ain't nobody got time for that.
Yeah, you just at times you don't want to have to pick between one or another. So anyways, we're doing that. We're doing a couple things with the battery setup. I'm running the Tracker lithium batteries, and I think we're going to run a dedicated last year with 4 units, I had no issues running just one cranking battery. I've got like 100 amp starting battery back there, but adding the extra unit and just all the draw of everything, I'm going to add another battery too. So I'm going to run a dedicated battery for my electronics, and then have just one battery on my starting to my motor. So that way you just never have to worry about the drain there on your cranking battery. But
so you're running 5 batteries in total?
5 batteries, so I'm going to have to add just another 1 bank charger to the boat.
Yeah.
So it's add this, add that. It's a lot of crap. And I know that some listeners are rolling their eyes right now saying, man, you need that, all that, and you don't. But when it comes down to, if you look at tournaments come down to 1 fish, and that's a $10,000 difference if it's the last check, or maybe even winning a tournament, it's 1 fish. It's you make or miss the championship by 1 fish. So in that type of, when there's that much on the line, you got to have everything you can to try to help you get that extra fish every day. So that's kind of, I've got next week fully devoted to getting the boat ready to go.
You're running the 10s up front still?
Yeah, and I've always loved the 10s. I got 2 12s in the back, and it'll be 3 10s up front. And especially you're running 3, man. I mean, it saves on the amount of bulk. It's less chance that you're going to smack a jig off of one of them. And they're really crisp and clear. There is and assuming I can get this thing edited and put up today, and assuming anyone actually listens on the holiday, it's probably pretty
big
doubtful.
assumption.
But all 3 of you that hear this before tomorrow, Black Friday, Bass Pro Shops has a sale on the 106 SV, same units that I'm running up front. They're regularly priced at $2,300. Black Friday $999. So
that's such a smoking deal. Like,
that's
I don't know
crazy,
how you don't.
Dude.
Yeah. You got to buy them on Black Friday if you're going to run multiple graphs.
Yeah. Not only are they doing that, but they're also giving away a ton of gift cards to the first people that line up every day, or on Black Friday in line. So
where I'm going after this.
Good.
Nice.
Yep. You got
The
nothing
10.
better to do. That's where you need to be. Yeah. Rob loves crowds of people and lines
Yeah,
of
people are my favorite.
Yeah. He'll probably go just to gab and just to talk to all the other people in line.
I can't say that because I like people, but I don't like big groups of people. We went to the World Series game. That was really lots of people. It was crazy.
What did you say it was like? You had a pretty good analogy.
Yeah, I did, but it wasn't mine. It was my buddy Les. He said, because he's got season tickets. He went to every playoff game, every World Series game here. And he said it's like, so you got to understand, you got Les, our buddy Alex, and me. And Alex and I are pretty big guys. And Les has a 3-seat Polaris Ranger, North Star. So it's got the doors and the windows and everything. And Les said going to the baseball game is just like the three of us riding in the Ranger, but with 50,000 people. And he's right. Like you're stacked in there, and yeah.
I don't know if I've ever been to like a fully sold out, like, and everyone in the seat sporting event. Like you go to a game and regular season game, it might be sold out or close, but not everyone's there. You get the season ticket holders that aren't there. People just don't make it to their seats, right? But I don't know if I've ever been to one where every seat's taken like that. You got 50,000 people.
It was so loud. And we went to the worst game. It was the bullpen game where
that was a tragedy.
D-backs did not fare very well. But I'm glad we went. And I'll probably never go again. It was so much more enjoyable to watch it from home. But it was cool to go see it. So
that's cool. It was a heck of a run. It was awesome to watch the Diamondbacks have so much success. And they're already retooling. They got a killer new third baseman yesterday. His name's I really didn't know much about him. They got Suarez, him from the Mariners. Yeah. Suarez. We don't get to see the Mariners much. The D-backs don't play him all that often. And I honestly didn't know who he was. I looked back. I said, "Damn, this guy is pretty legit." Looking at
he's a 30 home run guy a year, right?
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
That's awesome.
But, funny thing. I sent a text to both Nick and Josh when we're sitting at the World Series game, 2 hours prior to the game?
Yeah.
And Josh has to bust my balls and tell me, just like you, to get there 2 hours ahead of time. I'm like, yeah, and I've been sitting here for an hour already. So,
Rob's that guy that launches his boat in the dark.
Yeah, one other thing, we paid $120 for parking. Like that's crazy. Yeah. Nuts. But
that's neat. That's an experience, though. Nick, have you been to a playoff game in other sports or anything like that?
Well, I got way back in the day when the Cardinals actually went to the Super Bowl in the Kurt Warner era. We played the Eagles in the NFC Championship game at home, and my brother-in-law is a diehard Eagles fan and always had been, and so he was kind enough. We got tickets and we got good ones.
Nice.
And when you were saying that, I was smiling to myself thinking that experience was crazy because a football stadium is like, I'm going to say the wrong number, but it's like 95,000 seats or something, right? I mean, it's like the biggest of the three, baseball, basketball, football. And that whole thing it was so loud that even during just like a regular, second and 7, midway through the second quarter, it was still so loud we couldn't talk to each other hardly. Right.
Seriously.
I mean, it was, and then so that game came down to a game-winning drive as time expired in the fourth quarter, and the place was just like crumbling with just noise and excitement. It was a lot of fun, man. It was the opposite of Rob's experience where it was 17-1 halfway through the third inning. We had a game that was just back and forth. It was a lot of fun.
That's the roar of a crowd at a sporting event's awesome. Sports are just awesome in general, right? And that not every game is great, and it's not everyone's cup of tea. But when something like that happens, dude, and you see like the video from a fan's perspective, it's awesome to because the crowd gets dead silent before, like, as the play's unfolding. And then after the play unfolds, it just erupts, right?
Yes, I agree with you. That's why you go to a live game, to experience that eruption of joy. But yeah, it's I'm pretty sure at these playoff games, probably Cardinals also the same way, as like, how good we are at percentages, but I bet you 75% of the people there don't even know that baseball has 9 innings. I mean, or 3 strikes and you're out.
7 too many for them.
Yeah. Well, it's just, dude, the number of people that were justifying that they were there with their cell phone and doing like talking and posting, and like, pretty sure that's why they were there.
Yeah.
Was to do that.
That's lame.
It is what it is.
It's not like that in all fan bases too, like
right.
Philadelphia.
No, they're
Dude,
hardcore.
they could all tell you about everything going
Yes.
on, but I think it might be like a West Coast thing a little bit. You have a lot of transplants
Yeah. Yeah.
and not just Phoenix here, but I think that's probably there's a lot more casual fans. Um, you know, and I mean I could say I've been a Diamondbacks, a pretty diehard Diamondbacks fan this whole time, but a lot of people jumped on the train this year when they had that success.
Yeah.
Nick, you
Yeah.
ready, bro? What?
Yeah, well, two things there. For one, Rob just gave us the title of this episode. It's an eruption of joy because that's what
Nice.
it is every time we deliver a podcast. But I was going to say, so I got to go to a concert, and then we'll wrap up this weird tangent on things that are only interesting to us. But I went to a Tool concert, who's like my all-time favorite band, and they had like an extraordinarily strict no phones policy. I saw 2 or 3 people get ejected for getting their phone
Wow.
out to take a video or anything. They had security like at the side of every row, and the experience was actually fantastic. Because I still get distracted, and I don't even want to like turn the camera around and take a selfie and go live for 4 people. I don't know. I guess I'm just a phone addict. I need to make sure that no one's emailed me anything in the middle of a concert. It was cool. Like I came away from. They let us record the final song, and the singer's like, "All right," he used bad language that I can't repeat, but he's like, "All right." Ridiculed us all. You can take a video of this song, and then he just ridiculed us for being addicted to our phones and made fun of us. It's like it's true.
Yeah, that would be a cool experience to be at an event like that where no phones were allowed. It'd be pretty wild.
Yeah, and there was like no like blue light, right? Normally, like we went
That's
to the
Yeah.
cool.
Suns game last night, and everyone's on their phone the entire game. It's like it was cool. So that alone was an eruption of joy. Honestly,
Yeah,
it
yeah,
was
that's
like a
pretty neat.
small eruption, but it was still lava flowed.
Being
And I
in the
need to
moment a little
know.
bit. Go ahead.
It's overrated. I need to know, is the new boat, have you finally done a retro edition JB special? Are we Orlando Magic again? Or are we
Oh yeah,
still
that was
vanilla
pretty.
chocolate, black and white? So
I'll tell you,
boring. Ugh.
that boat. Yeah, Nick's talking about. I had one boat that was
It
like
was like your
a
first one, wasn't
sparkly
it?
black with a sparkly blue, and it was actually really pretty. But dude, I've seen like way too many of them since then, so now I can't really do that. I've seen
They
They
all
like the
copied
copied
wrong
you.
color.
Josh. Yeah.
Of
It
course they
wasn't
did.
that. It's just whatever. It's gotten more popular. So yeah, but I couldn't be more basic. Black and white. Black and white. It's
Dude,
good. It's a good
It's
Arizona color, dude.
you
Yeah,
get
that's a good color to sell too, because people aren't
don't
like, I
don't
hate
support
blue,
him
I
on
hate
this,
red.
Rob.
I
You
This
have to. Like, I
I
get it.
thought about it. I thought about it next, but after the fact, because when it's time to order, it's like you want to get that order in right away as soon as possible. So it's so much easier just to be like, same thing as
Same.
last year.
Yeah.
Boom, done. Just one email. But then I was the other day. I'm like, I'm literally gonna pull this boat out of the garage, and the new one, you won't know the difference. Like it's literally gonna be the same hours apart when I pull this out and put the new one in. And it's like, man, it's a little boring, man. Maybe next year I'll do a different color. So
bro,
maybe
you get
next
a
year I'll let Nick pick the colors.
No, 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 no.
dude, you get a free PHREE boat every year, and you
No,
pick
I don't.
white and black. I know, I'm kidding. I'm totally busting your chops on that, but you get a new boat every year. It's about time you use and dude, just get like a silver Sharpie and autograph the seat, and that thing will sell so fast. Like it doesn't matter what
Yeah.
color it is. You could do
Nick will be
like
Dude,
like, this
chartreuse and
color,
first light camo.
this is the same color of my 1987 such and such. And it was a really hot color back then. So we're gonna remake your boat in that color.
Hey,
oh,
everything retro comes back, bro. I'll probably be doing you a
Does.
favor.
yeah,
Right.
like beige and baby blue and stuff.
There you
Dude,
go.
how sweet would that be?
Yeah. Dude, it's amazing watching the used boat market right now. It looks like it's a pretty tough sell on some of them. And some of the color choices that people make on a boat that they're trying to sell that's a year or two old is just mind-boggling to me. Like simple colors are the way to
Dude,
go.
no
If
one
you're-
cares what color it is. Everyone
Yes, they
wraps it
do.
with Bob's used cars the second they get it and then put their name on it. They don't care. It could be hot pink.
No.
I hear
I
that.
don't know anything
Yeah.
I'm talking about. Rob actually does. So it's the first time ever I'm admitting that, but he might be right this time.
Yeah.
Good for you. Well, jumping back into the fishing
Where
thing,
were
and
we?
there's no real way to really do it. It's not awkward, but let's jump back into the fishing thing. And we're talking about November fishing, and it's funny, like I was fishing with a guy the other day, and he told me he caught his biggest fish of his life, his biggest bass in November. And I said, "Hey, man, that's funny. My biggest bass is in November as well." And it made me think, like, is November a sneaky big fish month, or is that just a complete coincidence? And it probably is a coincidence, but I want you guys to think about it for a minute. Obviously, here in Arizona and in the Southwest in general, it's when a lot of these the big swim bait fishing starts to pick up, right? Like they start, sometimes some of the lakes start getting trout. So there's obviously a window for big fish there. But I don't know, and there's parts of the country where you're already not fishing. But like I talked to Jacob Wheeler the other day. He was fishing Lake Erie for a few days, and he had like 28, 29 pounds for his best 5 every day. And he's like, dude, no, those are the same fish that are 4-pounders that you catch all summer, and you have 22 pounds. But now they're just so fat because they put on the fall feed that they're 5.5-pounders now instead of 4.5-pounders. So yeah, it
Yeah.
made me think, like, is November a sneaky big fish month?
I think it happens all over the country, but I think it's more um, highlighted in the north where those fish are having to go dormant. So they're really feeding up. Same thing happens to our fish here in Arizona. Um, People from the north have a hard time believing that they go kind of dormant in the winter, but they do to a certain degree. So there's definitely a feed up here. It's just probably not as drastic or noticeable. And so you're catching, I mean, obviously those fish are going to be heavier.
Yeah, yeah. It truly is a fall feed up north. And I don't
Yeah.
remember where we were talking about this not too long ago too. But like, yeah, they have to feed up because they are going to go dormant. Whereas like in the south, they're gonna eat, periodically through the wintertime. I saw a
Right.
chart the other day of how much a bass has to eat, and it would have been great if I would have screenshotted it and been able to actually give real data here to the listeners, but that's not my thing. I usually
Embellish it
just
to prove your
throw stuff
point.
out there. Yeah. But
Smarter.
it was amazing to see the metabolism on fish as the water, like just by water temperature. And it was like, it was by huge portion or amounts that it was like it was doubling as the water got warmer, doubling, tripling, quadrupling how much they have to eat to keep their weight. And you think in the wintertime, like, yeah, it makes sense. Like those fish sometimes might go all day and not have a bite. It's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, as fishermen, we know that firsthand. I mean, as soon as it cools off, it
You
gets
see it.
tougher and tougher. And so and there's reasons for that. But
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I enjoy fishing in the cooler months, and I think throughout the whole winter, your opportunity at big fish is there. That's one of the reasons that you do fish in the wintertime. And we're on the front edge of that now. People talk pre-spawn about being a great big fish time of year, but yeah, November, December, January, dude, you could go catch a 10-pounder without a doubt on any of our lakes out here, other than probably Bartlett or Pleasant. But in general, western lakes, southern lakes, if your water's not frozen, you could go catch your biggest fish, your record fish over these next couple of months.
yeah, look at
Go hunting.
Texas. What an example that place is for when it gets
Yeah.
cold. That's when all the big fish are biting.
OH Ivy, like
Yes.
they live for this time of year.
Yeah. That's
That that spawned a question in my head for our resident biologist, the fourth host here, who is pretty shy and never talks. So do you think then, like, does the general ecosystem support them for putting the feed bag on? And by that I mean, like, do you think that there's like an increased population of shad or like bait fish for them to gorge themselves on to get ready for that? Like in the example, like what Wheeler's saying, like has there been that much food for them year round and they just kind of been cruising until they get some kind of a instinct that says, hey dummy, it's time to eat, it's getting cold? It's like, it's interesting. I wonder if that is because you see it in other non-fish species too, right? Like a bear comes to mind, right? They just have to eat a bunch because they're going to take a long ass nap. It's crazy, right? Like you wonder how those ecosystems know and support themselves. Do you know, like, does it seem like there's more bait fish late in the summer coming into the fall, or does it just they're just not lazy anymore and they eat more?
I would
yeah.
have to say it's probably the latter there, right? Like, I mean, but the ecosystem does support it under normal circumstances, right? I mean, the shad are going to spawn when they spawn. It's not like there's like a
Continue
magical
to or
spawn
something.
right before the fall feed. Like they're going to spawn when they spawn, and what's there is there. And maybe
Okay,
that's
that makes
the time of
sense.
year
Yeah.
where they're pretty accessible to those fish, and whatever bait fish it might be, like the Great Lakes. It's different. It's different food,
Right.
but yeah, it's an interesting question, dude.
So they just stop being lazy, I guess, right? They're like, oh, damn, it's time to, hustle.
I mean, in layman's terms, that'd be my guess. What do you think, Rob?
Yeah, and I mean the shad should be bigger at that time of year too, right?
Okay, so
Yeah.
there you
Because
go.
whatever was spawned in the spring is going to be more mature, excuse me, in the fall. Obviously there's going to be always mature
There's some,
shad throughout the lake,
yeah, the
but
shad grows slow, right? Like the shad grows slow. Like those fish, to me, the shad that did the spawning are going to be huge,
yeah,
but then the actual, shad that were born
This
that
year's
year.
crop.
in March, or I'm sorry, in like May, they're still pretty darn small, dude. Like you'll see a lot of fish chasing the small. So I think you see both, but like I think you've got both that are still alive, and and you get
Yeah.
depending on what lake and where you see both, because um I've seen a lot of fish keyed in on really small bait this time or rewind a month, and they're hard to catch. I saw it in
Really
that
hard.
last
Yeah.
team series in
Yeah.
Texas. Yeah, just
Yeah.
those fish are blowing up all around the boat, and it's like you can't throw something small enough to match them.
That's one of the hardest bass to catch, in my opinion, is a bass that's
Oh,
and
Time
stripers too. Stripers,
yeah.
largemouth, all of them in general that are eating really small shad.
time for the floaty fly.
Yeah. Like earlier, was it early summer this year? The stripers at Pleasant were on the shad fry. Like you could barely see them. You could just see the little
Crazy.
dimples on the surface where they were moving, but they're like clear almost. And they were the hardest stripers to catch because they were just up there slurping them, and a bait, any bait we threw was so foreign to them. It was hard to trick them.
It is. It's so frustrating. And like
Yeah.
typically you see fish blowing up. It's like, oh yeah, get something in there and they're gonna bite it, but that'll drive you crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, for
I mean,
sure.
we had, and I obviously that team series deal, I can't talk about the details until it airs, but I had Edwin Evers and Marty Robinson on our team, and the three of us probably had 20 rods on our deck trying to catch these fish that were blowing up around us, dude. It was crazy. Yeah, to make you pull your hair out. Okay, so we'll say it can be a big fish month, not necessarily always, but it can be. Yeah, that's fine.
You guys want to keep going?
Yeah, for sure, for
Cool.
sure. Yep. Rob's gonna run it off the around the corner here. Bait of the week. One other thing I want to kind of start talking about is a new bait of the week, a bait that is really applicable to this time of year, maybe a new bait. And one thing that has been really popular lately is that power switch from Berkeley. Have you seen that thing, Nick?
No, enlighten me.
Yeah, it's kind of a forward-facing sonar bait, but it's you don't need to use it with forward-facing sonar. It is a shad or a minnow style bait that's got a jig head inside of it, but it doesn't have like a boot tail like a swim bait. What's unique about it is its tail actually has kind of almost like a little flat, almost like if you take a paddle, like a boat paddle, you've got the thick paddle part at the bottom, but at the top where your handle is at, you've got just that little flat knob that you hold on to. Well, that bait's got a knob on the back of it, and it's sitting horizontally rather than vertical. So when that thing
Okay.
falls, that tail swims down, and then when you rip it up, that tail swims up. So it's
Oh,
real subtle action. But the bait is designed to be a pretty versatile deal. Like it's got a lot of different sizes. 2.5 inch all the way to like 5 inch. And what's neat about it when you're fishing it on, if you are using live scope for it, is you can cast it out and sink it down to whatever the fish are at, and you start popping it on slack line, and it darts underwater like side to side. So the idea is you're giving it a lot of action
but it's
horizontally, but not bringing it
changing the
towards the
depth.
boat. Yeah, well, not changing
Oh,
that, but
okay.
not coming to you. So
Oh,
I'm sorry, I should say it's got a lot of lateral motion, but not
okay.
a lot of motion. Would it be horizontal as you're pulling it into yourself or what, dude?
Yeah, you are kind of, I guess it would be. We're going three-dimensional
All
here.
right.
So we're going to get
Yeah.
laterals and verticals and
It's got
horizontals.
it's got a lot of lateral movement. So the whole idea there is you can play the cat and mouse game with a fish without pulling the bait away. And that's kind of a big focus right now with a lot of people learning how to use their electronics and stuff and look at fish. Is you see a fish out there 60 feet away and you cast to it, and you work your bait to make him bite, your bait just gets away from him. Well, this this
Uh-huh.
this bait, you can work it and keep it in his face. So it's the power switch we're talking about, Rob.
Okay.
Um, it's pretty neat. It's
What
it's
is
gotten
this
pretty
the
popular.
tell me what that was. Tell me what it is.
It's that I posted a video of it maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, but it's the Berkeley soft. It's almost like a swim bait with a jig head in it without the boot tail.
Gotcha.
It's
Okay.
it's it's a it's just a little minnow bait, but yeah, it's getting pretty popular. What I love about it over baits with treble hooks, like you could throw a spoon in that situation, you could throw a jigging wrap or something like that, but the advantage this thing has is got the big single hook, so you're not going to
Hookup
lose nearly as
ratio.
many fish. Yeah, when
Yeah.
fish eat it and you stick
You
them,
can
they're
swing
usually
on
going to
them.
come in the boat. Yeah, absolutely. You get a spoon or a jigging wrap, you lose a third of the fish that you hook on that thing. So it's a pretty neat bait. If you get a chance, go pick some up there in most tackle stores now, and you can find them online too.
What weights are they? What are they? Are they
Dude, without having them right in front of me, they make it either from a 2 or 2.5 inch all the way to like a 5, and that
mhm.
ranges from like a quarter ounce all the way to like almost an ounce or maybe
Okay.
even an ounce. I've been really liking that 3 inch. It's a 3/8 ounce. Seems to be a
What's
pretty good size.
if I apologize if you've covered this already, but what's the idea? Is it to get it the weight, the heavier ones, to get them in front of the fish as quick as you can if they're deeper and thing?
We're having all kinds of technical issues. Yeah.
We
Okay.
are. What happened there?
I unplugged my mic and plugged it back in.
Okay.
But yeah, the idea of it is it's heavy enough to get down to the fish, but it's also light enough to where you can keep it in front of the fish as they're in the
Yeah.
middle of the water column. So, if the fish is down there at 40 feet, you might want to go to something a little heavier, like a traditional spoon. But if
Yeah.
they're in 25 or less, it gets down to them quick enough. But at the same point, you can pop that thing in the middle of the water column, and it's going to stay in the zone without sinking away from the fish. So it's kind of like I would consider it in between as far as the sink rate goes.
How long has this technique been like hot and secret on the pro
It's
tours?
just getting more and more popular, right? Like
Yeah.
I would say honestly, only a year.
Okay.
Like a year ago, no one knew about doing this stuff. Like, I mean, not many, right? Um, it's really blown up this year. Do you agree?
Is this the new drop shot? I mean,
No,
I'm
definitely not.
I'm I'll be honest, dude, like I am clueless on this technique. It's not something I've touched a whole lot. So
Yeah, it's for when the fish are high in the water column, and now fish will eat it when they're low and on the bottom. But it's definitely not the new drop shot. I don't think the
okay.
drop shot's getting phased out at all. But it's another alternative. And when those fish are up higher, especially the drop shot, dude, you can swing a drop shot through suspended fish and catch a few fish, but it's
Right.
not if they don't follow it don't want to follow it to the bottom and eat it. It does just that, dude. It pendulums through and it doesn't stay in that strike zone.
Yeah.
So you're seeing companies like Berkeley making baits that stay in the strike zone on these suspended fish, which I mean that's new. Like we never really had anything like that in the past.
And I'm probably, well, this is a guarantee that I'm speaking out of the wrong end here. How does it stay in the zone? Is it just like it's like has a buoyant? Well, it wouldn't be buoyant because it's
No,
sinking.
it
So it's
sinks.
high
It's all in
tech.
action, dude. It's all in
Okay.
action, and some of it's on the angler too. Like, imagine that you're throwing a jerk bait or walking the dog with a topwater bait. You need
Uh-huh.
slack in your line for the bait to
Yeah.
go sideways. If you have no slack in your line, it just tracks forward. So with this, it's designed to like walk the dog underwater in a more exaggerated motion, but you have slack in your line and you're popping that slack like a jerk bait or
Uh-huh.
something like that, and the bait darting side to side rather than forward.
But it
Gotcha.
also it also has the line tie to where it stays horizontal. So
Yeah, good point.
even when you are hanging it, because it's basically hanging a shad is what it's called, right? Kind of,
Okay.
isn't that the technique?
Yep.
So if you had something that hung, would it be vertical?
We literally just tried to figure out the direction.
Yeah,
But
sorry.
yeah, okay. So this one, no, you're right. It would suspends where it looks natural, right? Versus like a
Even when
fish
you
standing
are
on its tail.
even when you are pulling on it.
That's right, man. That's right.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
It's a little different than like the I don't know, dude. The hover strolling. There's a lot of different ways that guys are doing this. There's guys that are using that core tackle nail style deal that goes into the bait. There's guys that are using just a standard minnow, or a standard jig head, like a ball head with a minnow, and that works really well too. This is it's a little bit different version of that.
And
What's
I
neat?
think if the hookup ratio is good and the landing ratio, I think that a lot of guys are having trouble with some of their rigs and being able to hook fish up because of the way the heads are and whatnot. So if Berkeley got one that you can have a good landing ratio, they've probably hit a home run with it.
I've been pretty impressed with it. Fish,
Yeah.
of course, will sometimes slash at a shad bait, but once they're hooked, they're hooked. And I'm still throwing it on a spinning rod. Some of the bigger sizes you can throw on a bait cast, but like that 3-inch, I'm throwing on a spinning rod. And what's great too is like, man, you get the fish fired up, you can catch 10 or 20 fish on one before it gets torn up. Like basically, for that thing to be not usable, the weight on the inside is going to have to come through completely of the bait. And you can catch a lot of fish on one bait. They come in 3-packs. And I mean, as long as you don't lose them, which you're fishing them suspended a lot of times, like you catch a lot of fish on one
Per
bait.
bait. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. But all right, that's enough fishing talk. Enough of that technical crap.
Yeah.
Our
I took a
last
nap.
topic,
Wake me up.
Nick sent this article to us the other day, and it was unbelievable about the buffalo fish in Apache Lake. And this article that he sent, like the headline was like, the oldest living freshwater fish are in Apache Lake here in Arizona. Now, have you guys ever caught a buffalo before?
Years and years ago, I did. Yes.
Did you have any
one.
idea how old that thing could have been? And
No.
now, are you looking back saying, dude, I might have caught 100-year-old fish?
I have to be honest. I didn't read Nick's article. Sorry, Nick.
Oh, dude, you missed out.
How lame am I?
Nick, do you remember it well enough to summarize, dude? Like, can you kind of explain to the listeners and Rob what
help
happened?
me out a little bit, Nick.
The listeners would have read it instantly. I know my boys are paying attention.
Rob's got us muted, dude. Our group text is muted from Rob.
So muted. Yes.
Dude, I called Rob because now that I've watched 3 episodes of Meat Eater, I'm going to become a hunter. And he literally told me, don't even bother, and then hung up. Dude, I've had this guy in a month, and he's like, you'll suck at it. You'll spend a lot of money. Don't call me again. No, anyways, the buffalo fish article, no one fact checked this because it will ruin the validity of what I'm about to say. But if I remember correctly, they're actually a transplant from the Midwest. And so they're non-native out here. And I think that the root population that's in that lake in Apache, the majority of the bigger ones are still the actual fish that were brought here in the 19 teens.
That's insane.
Like 1915. They live over 100 years. And they did a study and had people out there using dough balls, I guess, and corn on a gold hook, and caught them and sampled them. And sure enough, like they really are over 100 years old. And it's funny, one time, because didn't Scooter have a picture of a huge buffalo on the brochure back in the day of the Arizona Fishing Guides?
Yeah, dude. I don't know if that was a grass carp or a buffalo, honestly.
I don't think it was I think it was a carp, wasn't it?
Yeah, that one that he had on the brochure was a carp. Now he might have,
and
I think he's caught a big buffalo
or something, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Because the buffalo experience I have was a foul hook, and I remember my brother foul hooked it with his like 5-weight fly rod. Yeah, I don't think they're overly like carnivorous, but maybe they are. Again, I'm talking out of the bottom end, not the top end, like always. But dude, he hooked it in the tail and on a wet noodle 5-weight, and it was like a 75-minute long battle with a bluefin tuna. And we wanted to see, clearly it was like, we knew it wasn't hooked right, and what was it? And we got this thing by the boat, and it was the length of your arm. I mean, it was just a giant fish, and it had this crazy eye. Like it looked like the black 8 ball in a billiard set. And damn thing is about the size of it. And you'd look at that, and it almost looked like an alien like robot probe. You're like, is this even a fish? So to know that it's over 100 years old kind of made sense. It just had this weird, like other world. It has like no pupil. It's just like a black bottomless hole on the side. They're crazy little fish, big fish.
That's a cool explanation, dude. I can see what you're saying there, dude. Yeah.
It's a bizarre creature, but yeah, so that's crazy. And then to think that, back in the good old days when we were just like transplanting non-native species everywhere because it was the thing to do. It's amazing to think that like those things are the OGs. Like 100 years in a human lifetime is a long time. I guess it's all relative to your spectrum, but that's crazy.
I'm going to say something here, dude, that might offend a bow fisherman or might offend somebody, but imagine being a bow fisherman and shooting a buffalo with a bow and arrow thinking it's a carp, or just knowing it's a buffalo and just shooting 100-year-old fish just for the hell of it.
Bro, assholes. I hope they're listening right now so we can call it to their ears. I watched their meat eater episode where he shot him with a bow and then he fried him. And I won't lie, it actually looked pretty delicious. It made me want to call Rob and ask for hunting advice, but then quickly regret calling him for hunting
Wait,
advice.
I'm sorry, dude. And I was looking at another thing to talk about next, but did you say they shot buffalo or was that carp?
Both, because I think
they did shoot. Wow.
They come from, well, again, they're more prevalent, I guess I should say, in the Midwest. I think it was the Wisconsin episode where they did a surf and turf. I think he shot a whitetail, and then they shot some carp with a bow and arrow, and then they had a fish fry. And it was a fantastic episode. I love it.
It comes from guys that have eaten coyotes.
Well, and those guys on the show are making fertilizer out of it, right? So are you saying that they use what are you saying with the coyotes?
I'm just saying meat eater guys have eaten coyotes. Like, I'm sure that carp was okay compared to a coyote.
I gotcha. Okay, valid.
I gotta say, and it's cool, like what those guys do with all the different animals. Like they utilize all kinds of different animals in different ways to eat and stuff. But like I follow most of the people involved in Meat Eater, and I gotta say, like a lot of that stuff they make, like they'll make a video on social media and stuff. It's just like, whoa, dude. I think I'll hold off on that one.
Yeah. They make like calamari out of deer butts and stuff.
Oh, you don't like that kind of stuff? Yeah, what a prude, bro.
Oh man. Yeah, I don't know. Props to them. I don't know. I mean, I'm the one that's eating like processed garbage from the grocery store. So like they would say the same thing about me. But yeah, some of it just some looks good, but some doesn't look that appetizing.
Speaking of
it's so much work that goes into it.
Speaking of that, the other night, Boyd and his fiance Lexi invited Tracy and I over for dinner, and we were having he had a challenge, and it was elk loin, antelope loin, and coos deer loin.
Okay.
And he cooked them. He marinated them all the same, cooked them all the same, and we had to decide which ones we liked the best. Antelope actually won.
Really?
Yes, and the coos deer was second. The elk was third.
Dude, that's shocking. Elk was last.
Yeah, but all three of them were absolutely phenomenal. So
that's neat.
Yeah,
that's what, dude. Yeah, you've had a good year of hunting when you can actually do that challenge.
I know, it's pretty cool.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, and hey, I mean, I'm the #1 fanboy of Meat Eater, but the antelope episode is called Lobster of the Prairie, Rob. So I would have got that right at trivia.
I love it,
dude. I would have told you that that's why I win all the trivia. You don't want to take me to your local watering holes Thursday night trivia because I'll dominate, dude. I've used this below average sized brain to fill it completely full of stuff that I'll never use. But I will tell you, it's Lobster of the Prairie. Never ate it, but it's Lobster of the Prairie.
Nice. I love it. All right. Well, to wrap this thing up, we've got trivia. We couldn't remember, it's only been 2 weeks, but we couldn't remember who had the last
2 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah. So I went ahead and took it. I'm going to ask the question. And while we're talking about, old stuff, we talked about buffalo fish, and I just looked up, some of the oldest living fish in general. And I'm not going to make you guys guess the oldest living fish because it'd be almost impossible.
Nick would probably get it though.
Sturgeon.
Yeah. We're even including saltwater here, but the Greenland shark is what's considered the oldest living fish in general. And I'm just going to have you guys try to guess the age, and so you can get closest to the age of. And I've looked at a couple articles. They're both pretty similar here. Now, it's got a range of its potential age, but the oldest recorded lifespan is a certain amount of years of the Greenland shark. Just to give a little bit of insight on this thing, the Greenland shark is a deep water shark that's usually found in the Arctic or North Atlantic Oceans. While it's usually measured between 8 and 14 feet, the largest recorded was 24 feet, so it's pretty big.
Oh,
yep. Now, how old do you guys think the oldest recorded one would be?
That's the question.
Yeah.
We
Do you guys want to just shout it out, or do you want to write it down, or just get it in your head? Just get it in your head. No cheating.
yes,
Who wants to go first?
I will.
How old is this thing?
I'm gonna say. So those are crazy looking dudes, man. Everyone needs to Google image search that, because I just Googled it to get the answer to your question because I don't want to be wrong. No, I saw it like a National Geographic clickbait article one time of those. Those things look like they're a million years old. It's like that thing's not alive. Again, it's an alien robot probe from the deep to
Yeah.
monitor us. But I think I'm gonna say 500 years.
Okay.
Wow.
How about you, Rob?
It's like The Price is Right, Rob. You have to be closer, but not over.
And this might not
I'm
even
just
be
kidding.
the right answer. You're just getting closest to the one that this article says. So who the heck knows, dude?
I'm just going to say 150. I have no idea. Nick knows what they look like and what they feed on.
Yeah.
I mean,
I have
Because
a
you need to
feeling
Google it.
Nick has got,
useless
Nick has a
information.
lot of useless information. He's very
He hasn't
curious
caught a
about
bass
stuff.
since
He's
he went
too
to
good at
Mexico
trivia.
11 months ago.
Yeah, dude. You're good at trivia, though. If we were doing trivia, I want Nick on my team, and you're going to win this one, Nick. So,
Of course he is.
The oldest recorded Greenland shark is 400 years old. But
Nice.
yeah, it says that they believe that they can be up to 500 years old. They said the average lifespan is 250 to 400 years. So, pretty incredible, man. What an amazing animal.
Those cold ocean environments are crazy, right? Because it's like it's extremely fertile. But then going back to what we were talking about 35 minutes ago, or whenever that was, how, fish just don't burn as much energy when it's cold, right? So they have this super fertile environment, and then they just swim around at 0.03 miles an hour for 400 years. They're not burning a lot of energy, right? It always
True.
blows my mind too when you watch like The Deadliest Catch, and it's just an absolute blizzard, terrible conditions, and they're dragging metal boxes on the bottom and who knows how deep, 1,000 feet deep, and it just comes up crawling with life. And it's like, how the hell is there life down there? I mean, that literally looks like the bottom of a deep freeze, like nothing's going on down there, and yet it's just fertile. So cold oceans are crazy, man. It's a badass animal for sure.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. It's a good point, man. Yeah.
And on the topic of old stuff, besides Rob, the craziest thing. So I read this weird book about trees, and so the oldest living organism on planet Earth is a cluster. Well, one of, because I can't remember which species it was, but I know there's a cluster. So aspen trees, right? The white aspen tree. When you see an aspen tree, it's actually the whole grove is sharing a root system. Maybe you knew that already. But so that's the actual organism. It's not just one tree, it's the whole root ball. But there's one I think it was in the Pacific Northwest, that they now have conclusively said it's 4,500 years old. But there's other ones that suggest it's over 12,000 years. Dude, 12,000 years, that's significant.
Yeah, that's incredible.
To still be like metabolizing nutrients and making excrement, which I guess is the definition of life. That's makes our little 75 trips around the sun here seem, short.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
And to bring it back to bass, those poor guys only live,
Sucks to be
12
them.
years if they're lucky. What's funny is the other day I was fishing with our buddy Alex, and it's November, okay? And I drop him off on the dock. He's going to go get the truck, and he looks down in the water, and there's a bunch of bass fingerlings, like 3 inchers. And it's like, dude, how are there 3
Good luck.
inchers in here right now? I saw a dead, we were at Canyon the other day, last week, and I saw a dead like 1.5 or 2 incher floating on the surface. And it's like, how's that here? Obviously, that fish spawned in the summer or fall. Like,
He's
Just
terrible at being a bass.
well, it just proves that Arizona doesn't have like exact seasons.
A traditional spawning window.
maybe
Correct.
so. Yeah. Yeah. It's
I
just so
mean,
hard to wrap your head around because I've never seen a fish spawning in the summer or fall. Not that I've looked that hard, but I've still been shallow enough that you think if it was very common, you'd be walking up the ramp one day and look in the water and see a bedfish, or,
yeah,
cover a
Uh-huh.
bank, or you go to unsnag your bait, there's a bedfish. And
I
I've
get
never
it.
seen that, dude.
I get it on these power generated lakes where, I
It's
mean,
warm all year round or whatever.
well, it's not warm, it's cooler come summertime.
Yeah.
Like
You
Oh,
you'll be
got
up at,
70-degree
right.
water in the river in August.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Gotcha.
That's a great point, Rob. But Roosevelt doesn't have that.
No, Roosevelt does not have that. That's what's crazy.
Yeah, so that explains the canyon fish. That thing literally could have spawned in August.
Yeah.
It's just interesting, and it's not common, not common at all, but very interesting.
It's a head scratcher.
Yeah, and we just got us talking about growth rates, and again, we need to get a biologist on the show at some point. But like you can clearly see at Roosevelt right now, the fish that spawn, there are a million 6-inch, 7-inch bass in Roosevelt right now, maybe 8-inch. Those are from this year. So they were born, say, April. So they're 6 months old. And so they're going to be, by the time April rolls around, they're going to be probably 1+ pounders, right? But like that's obvious that was this year's spawn because there are a billion of them in the lake. It's just interesting to see. And we were talking about growth rates of like Saguaro and Canyon. And Alex was saying, I don't know if there had been a study or something, but he thought that they could grow 2 pounds in a year and be up to 3 or 4 pounds in 2 years, which, dude, I believe. Like,
Yeah, I do too.
seeing the fish that we've got in those 2 lakes, I believe that. Which that's an oddity compared to other lakes, but that's
completely different environment on those lakes I mean, one is tilapia, right?
Yeah.
The amount of, they just have so much to eat in those lakes. It's unreal.
So much cover, so much to eat,
cover,
stable
yeah.
water level. There's grass for them to hide in.
Yeah.
Even though it gets a massive amount of fishing pressure, it's literally, it's
It
like
could
a
be a
fish
bass
hatchery,
paradise, right?
dude. Yeah, they're test tube babies.
Yeah.
I say
Yeah.
that all the time. It's pretty
Okay,
neat.
one last random question, and maybe you don't know the answer, and I'll just Google it. How long does a threadfin shad live? Like 2 or 3 years or something? Like an old
Oh
one, you
man,
think?
you got to ask a tough question to make us look like idiots at the end of the podcast. I
Oh, I'll
don't
just
know.
Google it. Did you know
I've
offhand? Because now you've made me wonder.
No, I've seen so yeah, and typically like a giant threadfin is like two and a
Last
half
seasons or
inches.
something?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah, and I would say like I'm just looking at going off of size
Yeah.
of what I see. A couple times I've seen giant threadfin. There was one year, I don't know what caused this on how so many lived so long or got so big, but there was a deal going on in it was like May of 2020. I was seeing like 4 or 5 inch threadfin all over Roosevelt and the salt, and we were smoking big fish all around them, dude. And
Yeah.
they were threadfin, they weren't gizzards. Those are the biggest threadfin I've ever seen, and I don't know how or why they got so big, but that's an oddity, man.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool. It all works one way or the other, right? Like the whole life and ecosystem is just a jigsaw puzzle, and some of them are 500-year-old alien space water ships, and then other ones are 2-year-old 2-inch fish, but it all fits. It's cool.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. You talk about a buffalo compared to
Yeah,
a
there you go.
threadfin shad. I looked at that article, dude, and I literally it blew my mind. It's rare to get like an article that blows your mind, and it blew my mind to know that there are 100-year-old fish swimming around
Here,
in a lake that you've been fishing for your whole life and had no idea. Like I would have thought,
well,
dude, just guessing, I would have thought you catch a 25-pound buffalo that thing was 20 years old and it's it's going to die soon.
but when you go like in Alabama, that just feels like the land before time. Like it looks like probably what it looked like in the Jurassic period or something. But you have old critters there. You have like alligators, and you
Yeah.
have like I think gar live like an exceptionally long amount of
Interesting.
time, and you'll see like a big gar roll. And I always kind of think that dude was probably swimming around during like World War I, right? And he's just floating around in this river. Back then, it was before the dam probably, and so he's seen some crazy stuff in his life. But I don't know why that stuff geeks me out, but it's just crazy because it's like I'm a 35-year-old dude. It's like I lived through a COVID pandemic, so I guess I'm a survivor. But you think of like all the stuff that dude's lived through. It's like his house got this huge concrete thing built, and then he has to put up with, you know what I mean? And it's
Oh
like, and
yeah.
there he is, just like rolling in a swamp. I guess the buffaloes are just like doing underwater cartwheels at the bottom of Apache Lake, laughing because it's a stable environment year round or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Weird random trip. I didn't eat an edible before this episode. I promise. We
I don't
can
think
wrap from there.
Apache's been there 100 years, has it?
No, because the Roosevelt Dam actually was like one of the went on a field trip this week with my daughter to the science center. So I learned all about the Roosevelt Dam, but it was
Okay.
built like the 19 teens, like 1913, I think.
The dam at
The
Roosevelt
the
completion was
Roosevelt.
probably 13, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because I
So
know
it was commemorated.
they worked. I mean, it was like 1900 when it started,
Dude, the
roughly.
the original dam building process, if you want to talk about cantaloupes made out of titanium, those were some tough hombres, dude, dangerous, crazy stuff. But so
Yeah.
yeah, so to answer your point, Roosevelt is barely
So
100 years
yeah,
old, and
Apache was the dam at Apache was completed in 1927, actually
okay.
did. So it's
Okay.
almost 100 years old.
And so there you
Wow.
go. So if those fish were, so they must have been dropped in the salt. We'll need to go back and read it and see. So maybe not quite 100, but dude, we're rounding up at this point.
Yeah.
90 plus years is
I can
crazy.
promise you that we got to it first, but your boys at Meat Eater will talk about this on their on like one of their next upcoming podcasts. That's just too big of, and I've seen it get shared around a lot. And maybe it's because we live here in Arizona, but this will come up on their podcast for sure. That buffalo fish.
It's crazy. It makes you want to go crack open a bag of frozen corn and sit on the bank. I just takes me back to my childhood, man. I had all the Asian carp and koi named in my local residential pond. Dude, I could catch it with my eyes closed. I'm gonna go catch me 100-year-old buffalo and break the
In
skunk.
that article that was talking about some of the older fish, koi actually came up as well as a fish that lives a really, really long time,
Koi
actually.
are crazy. They were actually okay. No one cares. I'll shut up. But they were pets, dude. They like planted them in rice farms, and they like had a symbiotic relationship with the farmers because they'd eat the bugs. That's like my little Chihuahua, man. They're just friends.
That's interesting. I mean, they're neat. It says they can live up to about 40 years, so that's a pretty
Yeah,
long time for a fish. It's a lot longer than most.
a Chihuahua.
Yeah, yeah. Well, right on. It's been fun to catch back up with you guys. Happy Thanksgiving to you,
We only
the
having
listeners
one
as well.
trivia question.
Yeah,
Okay, perfect.
yeah. It's
All right. I was hoping there was going to be like
A chance to redeem yourself? Hell no.
Yeah, like who won the last Red Crest? Like I'd have a shot.
Here's a trivia question: how far was Boyd's deer shot at? There you go, Rob. Go.
It was. I'm not going to say
6,842 miles away.
Yeah.
He was in Tibet.
Well, yeah, great to catch up with you guys. Anything else before we wrap this up?
Not really, other than happy Thanksgiving and enjoy hanging out with your families.
All right, everybody. We'll see you again in exactly 2 weeks. Have a good one.